Hello, it's April 29th, 2024. This is Bob of Lou and Bob at the Two Old Guys Garage. I'm in my garage, obviously. It's been a while since I published part 25. This is part 26, segment 1. I'm going to do a little catch-up here on my car, which I've been puttering around with for the last 2 or 3 weeks. First off is, while working on the brake issue, noted in the previous parts and segments, I decided to replace the flexible lines, and I mentioned that before. So as you see there's a new brake line on this side, and there's one on the other side. There's a single brake line that connects the Jaguar subframe to the 1/4 inch brake line on the frame at the rear. So when I took the hoses out, and I think I mentioned before, the back hose was installed in 72, the front hoses were installed in 77. I felt they probably weren't in too good shape, but that turns out not to be the case. These are the 3 hoses, and I took each of the 3 hoses and I cut them into 3 pieces to examine the inside. And if you look at it, there's nothing wrong. The center hole is supposed to be about 1/8 of an inch. It's actually, I think, 3.2 to 3.4 millimeters per the SAE J1401 spec, whatever. But if you notice, there's nothing wrong with them. And the other thing is, there's still flexibility and life to them. There's 0 cracks and 0 signs of leaks, which means I probably could have got along with a bunch more hours for that. Anyway, what's interesting is that the back one was an EIS brake hose, and the 2 front ones were Wagner's, and all 3 were made in the USA. So I don't know whether that's a good testimony for parts made in the USA and not in China or whatever. At any rate, having put on the new brake hoses, of course I ended up losing a lot of the fluid, particularly in the front, because the line, the cross line, you can see it down there, and that line connects this side to the other side, and then it goes into a T and goes back to the master cylinder. Actually, it goes back to the power booster. That, of course, left a lot of air in it. Same in the back. The back was an extra problem because the hose that I got wanted to take a 3/16 brake line, and I have a 1/4 inch brake line on the frame. Not a problem, because they make all kinds of adapters to take care of that look like this. This screws into the female 3/16, and then this accepts a 1/4. So I ordered a part, and I ordered it from Amazon because it was convenient. And when I got it and installed it, it kept leaking at the joint. Well, after tightening and over-tightening, I finally took it apart to find out that the brass adapter, which was a Dorman whatever, that came from Amazon and obviously made in China, the hole was drilled offset. So, there it is. If you look at that, you can see the hole's not in the center. So this was the cause of the leak. I ended up going down to O'Reilly's, and they had a same part number but in a blister pack, so I could look at it and make sure it was okay. Put it on, and there's no more leaks. Unfortunately, with the hose off all that point of time, even though I capped the ends to minimize leakage of fluid, I got a lot of air in the back too. So I've been messing, I don't know, the last couple of 2-3 weeks, pumping and bleeding and getting air out and getting air out. It's still going on. So I'm not quite there. While the car is up in the air, it's a good time to take advantage to take a look underneath and do some other things. And one of the things that I've been doing, and we'll finish up hopefully today, was that one of the 2 horns was not working. If you look down here, you can see that's the right side horn right there. Now these horns were installed in November 1960, brand new, and they're a fallout of my years of working as a foreign car mechanic. These are 1958 Triumph Herald Model 1200, and they were nice and small at the time. Anyway, I took the one that wasn't working, and this is cleaned up, but it didn't do any good. It's still loaded with rust. So when I mounted these guys, logically, I pointed the horn towards the front of the car, wanting the sound to be heard, as far as to the front as possible. Didn't really plan to be running the car a lot in foul weather, but obviously if you look at this, and this has been cleaned somewhat, water got into this horn and got up and screwed the points up and all that stuff. So I just received from Moss Motors, who handles English car parts. These are replacement horns for MGA Midget and Austin Healey Sprite, and lo and behold, they're even smaller than the Triumph Herald horns. So I've got these ready to install. Got the wires made, so on and so forth, connectors down here. So I'm going to get under the car and I'm going to put those horns in, and then I'm going to pause at this point, and I'll get back to you later. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi, I'm back. As usual, it took longer than I expected, but if you look over there in the center, there's the passenger side horn, the new one, and here's the driver's side horn. And this time I've got them angled towards the rear so that they won't scoop any water up, or if they do, it should drain out. It should minimize it. Anyway, it's done. They're all wired. All the stuff had to be done, like tying down the heater hoses, which are over inside the right side channel, making sure they're not going to hit or rub anything. And on this side, this bolt, a screw that holds this one down, has got an Adele clamp that holds the headlight wires that run down the left side of the frame on the driver's side. Okay, so that's about it. Just hang on a second while I climb up out of here. I'll be right back. All right, here I am. Well, let's see what these babies sound like. Wow, that's pretty loud. I like that. Those horns were bought from Moss Motors, and again, they fit an MG Midget and a Sprite. Take over here if anybody's interested in them. Getting similar horns. They're nice and small, and they're very loud. And as you can see, the GE 165 115-335. There's a low note and a high note. Made in France. Okay, that's it, I think, for this segment. Next segment, I'll catch up with Lou. I don't think he's been doing very much either, but we've both been kind of in the doldrums lately. Probably due to our advanced age. But anyway, I'll get back to you a little while with hopefully part 26, segment 2, over at Lou's at the original Two Guys Old Garage. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. And we're recording. Hey there, it's Bob and Lou at the Two Old Guys Garage. It's April 30th. 30th, boy. Boy, we're almost out of April. And I did segment 1 of part 26 yesterday in my garage on the catch up on stuff that's going on my 32 Coupe. Which reminds me, I did not mention how much the new horns cost. They're only like $13, $14 a piece, so that's pretty damn good considering today's inflationary rates. So what's happened since the last time here is that Lou has, I don't know if I can see it. Oh, there it is. Lou has made spaces for the bottom of the attachment of the headlight and fender braces, which moved them out to a more correct alignment spot. And you can see the aluminum half-inch plate there. What he's also done is he's permanently installed the directional lights and the horn. This is a horn mount. Okay, so those are done, and then the grill adjustment has not been done because the bolts that are holding the grill to the front fenders and the inner well. Yeah. Lou's going to go to a smaller size bolt to allow them to get more adjustment for the smaller bolt moving in the existing holes. We just chased a little bit of a problem. Not really a problem, but it's a kind of an annoying thing that when you put the right directional on, the dash indicator does not go completely out, as opposed to the left side. And you sharp-eyed viewers note that it's clicking faster there than there. We checked the grounds of all the lights and they're okay. We also checked the ground of the indicator, and we had a spare indicator which we connected into the circuit, and likewise it doesn't shut. So, and it's the same circuit breaker flasher for both, so that doesn't explain it. The only thing that's left is the wiring in the super duper column, right?
What do you expect for another Chinaman?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's see. So what's going on next, Lou? The bolts, right?
Yeah, and then it's going to go to the dreaded
Doors.
That's it.
Oh, maybe that's why we've been kind of loafing the last week or two, because we're reluctant to start working on the doors.
I mean, I know you're going to be a disaster. I just know it.
Yeah. Well, it's the way it goes. Okay, so doors are coming up next, unfortunately, but has to be done.
You got to have them.
So this moved the braces out. That's pretty solid. Of course, I would assume that in the stock world, the hood adds stiffness to it for moving back and forth. All right, so what do you think? Next week for the doors?
Yeah, I'll probably start next week on the doors.
Yeah. Oh, looking good. Have you taken it out for any midnight runs?
No, I haven't driven it at night yet, so I need to take it out for a drive one of these nights.
Yeah, don't forget your goggles.
Yeah.
All right, so
I've got lights on it, yeah.
yeah, I think at this point, nothing much else to discuss, except I got to look up something on the internet for Lou, a longer cable to a new security camera that we put out there from Tapo, T-A-P-O, which I have found so far to be superior to the Wise cameras that I've been doing for 2 to 3 years. So that investigation is still ongoing, but we need a longer cable because the position we put the new camera in is too low. We need to raise it up, so we need a longer power cable for it. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Probably going to be a short part, but I'm going to put it out to YouTube video. It'll probably be about 12 minutes or so, just a tiny one. All right, catch you all later.
Bye-bye.
Say bye. Yeah, all right, bye. Take care, everybody out there. Keep your powder dry.